This week, we're excited about legalized sports betting here in Canada and the opportunity for collegiate athletes to start making some money off their name and likeness.
Let's set the stage here. Legalized betting has been around in Canada for a while, but it was a parlay system. Like, you had to be able to bet multiple games at once. You couldn't do the single event betting, which means like I had to bet on 2 games, or I had to bet on 2 events in a single game, which is more likely for me to lose my money, right? Like, I'm going back to my 8-game parlay on a Thursday night at NHL where I got 7 of them right and I lost in a shootout, and there goes my big win.
Yeah, I think it's cool now that Canada can kind of catch up, and we always see on social media like someone placed a $50,000 bet that the Astros are going to win the World Series and they could net $1 million. Like, we weren't really involved in that in Canada. So as a former degenerate gambler myself, who now stays away from all things pro line or any sort of sports betting, it might draw me back in, honestly. If I got a sure thing NBA game I'm going to bet on, I'm much more likely to do that single game betting rather than a parlay where, like Lenny mentioned, I'm going to be spreading more risk and lower my chances of succeeding. So I think it's a great step in the right direction. I think we'll see more bets because of it, which is obviously good for everyone in teams, leagues, the government, more tax dollars, etc.
Yeah, I think if anything, it makes it more accessible for like the casual fans that may only have interest in one particular event at any given time. And the parlay system maybe seemed a bit confusing for them. They weren't sure exactly how to play, or they didn't really have as much confidence in multiple events. Now they can get involved with a singular event that they're really interested in or really keen to see the outcome and start participating that way.
I mean, let's face it, it's way more interesting or engaging when you have money on the line of the game, right? Like, you're like watching it. You're not like, oh, I'll go over there or like encounter. No, you're like engrossed in it. It's like, where's my, I want to see this win. I'm invested in it. So I think that'll be really interesting for the casual fan or people to draw them in a little bit more into the drama of the game itself.
Yeah, I think, whenever sports betting becomes more accessible and more bets can be placed, that's always going to be good for a team or a league, especially on the, sponsorship, partnership, revenue side. I think we'll see even more betting partners become partners with individual teams and leagues. Like, we have been seeing a lot of uptick, especially in the States in the last 3 to 5 years, based on kind of different timelines for when sports betting's been legalized. So yeah, I really view this as a net win for kind of everyone involved, the fans, the teams, the leagues, and more money means likely more eyeballs, larger salaries, which means again more kind of inclusion in that sport. So I think it's a win-win all around.
Yeah, there's a lot more competition in the space, right? Like, typically before, a lot of even the provinces were just based on the lottery commission of what's there. There's a lot more, frothy, hungry betting companies out there that want to get involved in that space, along with like your big names like your DraftKings and your FanDuel and stuff like that. But that creates competition in the marketplace. It gives teams an ability to actually carve out different sections for their sports betting, maybe it's just for the entire team or the entire like organization, but there's other sort of different ways to slice and dice it, right?
I think also just like legitimizing that market. Now you don't have to go to an offshore bookie if you wanted to make these kind of single bets where, again, like the team's not getting any revenue there's no taxation there. So I think it's all kind of bringing it into Canada and will allow more kind of domestic competition, which again is always a good thing for kind of everyone involved.
Oh yeah, there's I don't have the exact numbers, but there's like a gigantic amount of money that's going offshore illegally in this betting amount that will be coming back through Canada, through taxation, through all this other stuff, which is, it's good for everyone involved in that way.
Just going off Tom's earlier point about partnerships as well, I think the fans are really going to win out because they'll be able to see So many more cool partnerships that will come out, fan engagement opportunities from all of this as well. You look at some of the different types of fan activations you can now do when betting is more a part of the culture. It really opens up a lot of doors just for, more participation all around.
Good point, Sam. A lot of that will be new type of content that's available too, right?
Totally.
Like we're gonna see Hockey Night in Canada now with a whole betting section or like an alternative broadcast. Like there's lots of really interesting things, and that plays into data. So what more things are we going to see in analytics and data and other things like that that is influenced or sponsored maybe by a betting company in a certain way, like gives you a different insight into the game. So the other great thing about legalized single event betting is that we could have bet on Joey Chestnut yesterday to win that contest.
Except for it was like a minus 3,000. Like there wasn't a great return on that.
Yeah.
He was so favored.
My money would be on Tom.
The glizzy goat.
Oh, out of the three of us, yeah, my money's on Tom too.
I think I could put away.
How many hot dogs?
I think
What's
I
the over?
Hang
on, Tom. Well, over under on hot dogs for Tom, Sam.
I think 11.
Oh, you went over the double digit.
I'd hammer the over on that one.
Yeah.
I think I could do like those little hot dogs. I think I could do 13 or 14 pretty easily.
Rest in peace, your gut. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to defer to Sam and Tom to start because both of you guys did some school in the U.S., right? So you have a little sense of the collegiate.
I was a college athlete. I would have been branding myself out there. Yeah, I mean, this is super, super exciting. I think it's a long time coming. This has been going on, since the kind of Ed O'Bannon case, which is decades old. It's huge. I think for athletes, it's obviously massive, especially the bigger name athletes. Like I'm wearing Sabrina Ionescu's jersey from Oregon. This jersey sold out in one day. You can imagine if she was getting some of that, revenue coming her way, combined with, all these local and larger partnerships they can get involved in. I was reading an article today that said, Sabrina could have made 6 figures in her senior year. And that's huge. And I think not only is that big for the athletes, but it plays obviously a large role on the colleges themselves because, for instance, it's NBA draft season. I'm a big draft guy. And players are now choosing to go back to school rather than maybe force themselves into the draft where they might be a second-round pick. They might not get selected because they know they can go back to school and make decent money and provide for their families, which is a huge opportunity. And the reason why a lot of these guys are, pushing themselves so much to maybe get drafted before they're supposed to. So it's got a huge effect. It's going to affect the colleges. I think it's going to provide more incentives to stay in school rather than get drafted, which is again
and finish your degree.
Yeah, which is good for the NCAA. It's good for the schools. They've had it good for so long. So why not, spread this wealth a little bit?
Yeah, totally. I'd agree with Tom. I mean, it's obvious how great it is for the athletes themselves. What I love is being able to see, some athletes from maybe non-dominant sports getting some attention as well. This really kind of puts the ball, no pun intended, into the athlete's court and allows those stars from any sport really to go out and hustle and kind of get some support that way, which we love to see. We love to see athletes kind of sharing that around as well. I don't know if you guys saw, the quarterback from Miami talking about how he's going to be sharing, any sort of partnerships that he creates with some of his teammates as well, which I think just creates kind of some awesome opportunities there. Obviously, the fans are going to win out too because the content opportunities are going to be great. I saw some cool stuff on Twitter just over the weekend from like Canes and the new athlete that they've partnered with. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, just kind of echoing the sentiments here. Like overall, like what you're saying, Sam, it's like all athletes can now benefit. It's not just that top athlete that's going to make the big money. The other major opportunity here is that local businesses, like in these small college towns, you have a really good pairing and opportunity there where, maybe they weren't going to have a national sponsorship deal to be able to do hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they can sponsor an athlete for $10K or even give them free meals or whatever it is, stuff that was not allowed by the NCAA before, and saying, oh, that's against the rules. Now you've got some really interesting ways to tie a really local, local athlete to a really big presence with a local business, and I think that's a huge win across the board from a sponsorship. Like they have like these college hunk thing, which was like a moving company, kind of like the college pro painter sort of situation. They did a couple of $20,000 sort of deals with a couple of athletes I saw. Like there was a run at them on July 1. Like there was a race to see who would be able to kind of get, what type of endorsement opportunities. But those are the ones that I think are really a huge and interesting opportunity from the local presence.
And just to play devil's advocate, I mean, I think we need to examine, what are maybe the negative ramifications of this. And you think about, there's already a huge disparity on some teams of, hey, the star player gets so much attention and maybe they're getting some illegal benefits. Whereas now, I saw an article that said, Zion Williamson would have made 7 figures during his time at Duke. And, how do I feel if I'm riding the end of the bench at Duke and I see Zion pull up in a $200,000 car and he's got, jewelry and this and that, maybe that creates some more inequality. I think as well, I worry sometimes about these athletes getting taken advantage of. Some of them might not have the right sort of legal or management representation that kind of is necessary for some of these business deals. And, as we know, I did not have great financial literacy when I was that age. And you can imagine some of these college athletes might be the same. And so I think it's going to be really important that they seek the right sort of legal and management representation in order to not be taken advantage of, so that, this can be a profitable thing for them. And like, Sam mentioned, maybe some of that wealth can be shared with the rest of the teams, so that it's not such a huge disparity between the top and the rest of the players.
There's an interesting angle on that though, right? The colleges then have an opportunity to do financial literacy and these things together. That can be a recruitment play as well, to arm them with the right sort of financial advice and all these things on how to be able to manage your money, get your endorsements, do all these other things as well. Because man, now recruitment is a whole different game now. Where am I going to be able to get the best endorsement deals because I'm tied to this team or whatever that sort of thing is? I think now that changes the game completely.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see who's going to be the kind of first really big brand who's going to throw 6-7 figures at an athlete and kind of see what the ramifications are of that. Is there going to be, if I'm a Nike or an Adidas and I can now throw a huge amount of money at a 17, 18-year-old and kind of get them under my wing full time? That's
can you get them early and at a cheaper amount, even though it's a larger amount of money? It's way less than what they would have to do when they're in the NBA or something like that, right?
And on the basketball side, we already see that who you play AAU for is determined by who's the sponsor. So if you're an AAU Nike guy, you probably go to a Nike school, then you get signed by Nike when you make it to the NBA. Now this is all going to kind of change because individual athletes will have that possible representation by these brands. So I think it, again, gives more power to the athlete and less to these kind of bodies that were potentially manipulating them before.
What's going to change? Crypto prop bets while I'm watching the game live through my augmented reality glasses.
I'm hoping to see some teams. Obviously, we'll see betting become a lot more popular. Obviously now with single events available in Canada, we're seeing it become legalized in more and more states across America. So we're kind of riding that wave now. I think maybe in 5 to 10 years, I hope to see teams leaning a little bit into some corporate social responsibility around that as well, and making sure that their fans aren't necessarily getting too deep into the betting space or getting taken advantage of, or developing any dependency on that. So maybe having some teams get involved in the education piece around betting as well will be really important moving forward.
That's a great point, Sam. I mean, the 50-50 draws in the games have always done a great thing for foundations and stuff like that. But it makes me wonder how some of the betting regulations, as they open up in different provinces and stuff like that, what percentage of that is going to funnel back into initiatives in the community and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my prediction, looking at our crystal ball 5-10 years ahead, I think we'll see our first college athlete sign an 8-figure deal while in college. Again, I would think that would most likely be on the basketball side or even potentially football. And I think that's great, especially in the football end where these guys have very limited guaranteed money they can make in the NFL. So this is a great way to provide for their families, provide for their future generations kind of as they're healthy. So that would be my big one. I think we'll see an 8-figure deal signed.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting complications out of this on, I think the initial reason why the whole NIL came about was like jersey and like video game stuff. Now it gets even muddier when it comes to any of that stuff, but it opened up the opportunity to make money across the board for a bunch of different things. So I don't know if that's a future forecast. It just means like, yeah, we're going to see some of the strangest endorsements we've ever seen. Like no one would have ever thought of, but that it might be, or that are going to be lucrative at the same time.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We are Tradable Bits, and this was This Week in Fan Marketing. Tune in next week for another banger. Thank you, guys.